World War I began in 1914 and ended in 1918. From allies to trenches to illness to death, World War I was an important point in history. The war gave birth to improvements and ideas that would change the world forever. At the beginning of the war, many people were optimistic and thought that the war would only last a few months, but it soon fell into a deadly stalemate. Both sides of the conflict were suffering tremendous losses. In 1917, the resources tapped out. The war seemed to have no end. But in 1918, after 4 years of pointless death, the war came to an end. The Allies won and Germany was defeated. But what turned the tide of the war? Who tipped the scale? What advantage did the Allies gain that the Central Powers needed? Two words: United States.
In 1914, the war seemed unnecessary to the U.S. The public wanted to stay out and let the European countries take care of their own problems.
America declared neutrality on August 4, 1914. President Woodrow Wilson's Declaration of Neutrality in Washington, D.C. can be summed up in the following sentences.
Our neutrality is solemnly based on what citizens believe. If we have magazines, newspapers publishing articles and propaganda about joining the war, we have ministers proclaiming that citizens should join the war, then we will have citizens that want to join the war. We, the United States, are compiled of many citizens, all from different races. Some of the citizens of the United States originate from countries that are right now involved in war. Each citizen is wanting a different country to win, and they excite that the United States should support their country. However, if we, as the government, help unite all these citizens from different countries and backgrounds into honorable Americans and thus lead to peace in our own country. For this reason, the United States must stay neutral so that we can keep our peace before trying to keep peace with all countries.
However, Britain was not pleased that the United States declared their neutrality in the war. Britain wanted to bring America into the war on the side of the Allies to obtain more resources and more soldiers to fight Germany with. Although the United States traded with both sides of the war, it had always leaned towards Britain. The United States and Britain had been on friendly terms for many years before the war. They often traded and exchanged with each other. The American and German trade, on the other hand, had been stopped by the British blockade, making the relationship between these two countries diminish. This caused many merchants to support the Allies. This type of warfare caused discontent in the American public, so they decided to put an end to it. It all started when Germany announced that a German cruiser had sunk the William P. Frye, a private American vessel. Then, on May 7th, the British-owned Lusitania ocean liner was torpedoed without warning just off the coast of Ireland. Out of 1,959 passengers, approximately 1,200 were killed, including 128 Americans. Americans were indignified and called for the end of the unrestricted submarine warfare. Pushed by the fear of having the U.S. join the Allied forces, Germany agreed to the Sussex Pledge. According to this pledge, before German submarines could destroy a ship, they had to search the ship. If any weapons or abnormalities were found in the ship, the German submarines would have to give the passengers enough time to get off the ship. Then they would destroy it. On February 1, 1917, it was over. Germany couldn't take it anymore and returned to unrestricted submarine warfare. In January 1917, Germany sent a telegram to their ambassador in Mexico. In the telegram, Germany states that if in the event of the United States joining the war on the Allied side, they would help Mexico regain back the territory they had lost in the Mexican-American War. In exchange for their support, of course. This telegram is known as the Zimmerman telegram. Unfortunately for Germany, the telegram was intercepted by British intelligence. Britain decided to send the telegram to the American authorities. Shocked by the telegram's contents, which read,
We intend to begin on the 1st of February unrestricted submarine warfare. We shall endeavor in spite of this to keep the United States of America neutral. In the event of this not succeeding, we make Mexico a proposal of alliance on the following basis: make war together, make peace together, generous financial support, and an understanding on our part that Mexico is to reconquer the lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The settlement in detail is left to you. You will inform the President of the above most secretly as soon as the outbreak of war with the United States of America is certain, and add the suggestion that he should, on his own initiative, invite Japan to immediate adherence and at the same time mediate between Japan and ourselves. Please call the President's attention to the fact that the ruthless employment of our submarines now offers the prospect of compelling England in a few months to make peace.
President Woodrow Wilson decides to get the telegram published in major newspapers. The publication of the telegram strengthened the growing hard feelings that most Americans already felt towards Germany. These hard feelings were only cemented when Zimmerman himself confirmed the authenticity of the telegram. This event only made American intervention even more inevitable.
Fueled by anger caused by Germany's incompetence to keep the treaty and their attempt to turn Mexico, the United States' next-door neighbor, into an enemy, President Wilson requested Congress to declare war on Germany to make the world safe for democracy. He clarified that the U.S. wasn't fighting as an ally, but was fighting as an associate, notifying them that the U.S. was only fighting for moral reasons such as protecting democracy and supporting world peace.
On April 12, 1917, America officially joined World War I in hope of stopping Germany. American involvement brought many advantages to the Allied side. It brought a large amount of soldiers and resources. Before the U.S. joined the war, it was pretty even. All the country's armies were worn down and beat, but the American army was fresh and ready to fight. America also had many resources other countries had already exhausted because of the war. The U.S. makes its first move on July 3, 1917. It sends American expeditionary forces to help aid in France. 4 months after arriving, they fired their first shot in trench warfare. Trench warfare was a new strategy that was first implemented in World War I that gave advantage to defenders, allowing them to set up new weapons and easily deal heavy casualties to their opponents. Most of the time, both sides made trenches, and the space in between was known as no man's land, because it was an area where the enemy team could easily shoot a target. The trenches were set up by digging a trench and waiting for their team to make a move, and then take them down with new weapons such as machine guns and toxic gases. These new methods led to extreme negative effects, including the death of over 38 million soldiers. The trauma of war was barely felt in the United States compared to aggressively hostile Europeans. Its losses of 116,000 were small. At the end of the day, it was able to emerge from the conflict full of strength and optimism, convinced of the values of its institutions and way of life. When the war finally ended on November 11, 1918, more than 2 million American soldiers had served on the battlefield of Western Europe, and some of 50,000 of them had lost their lives. The death of the United States was less than any other country involved in war. However, the United States was one of the countries that had one of the most benefits from war. The economy grew and managed to establish themselves as a world power. Here's an example of what war was like in World War I.
Subscribe to take a trip back in time.